You all go ahead and turn on your cameras because you're going to be the speakers. When somebody joins, you don't want to show blank screen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. We will be now beginning our seminar, GitaWise, Leading Life the Right Way. Today's seminar is an inspirational seminar directed by our GitaWise high schoolers. So before we get into GitaWise and our seminar, I'm just going to provide you with a short background. So GitaWise is a nonprofit organization that has adhered to its main mission of helping people find the path to Krishna consciousness. Looking back to see GitaWise's incredible journey has been fascinating. It started in 2014 as a Bhagavad-Gita summer program for children in Auntie and Suresh Uncle's basement, and has evolved to become a year-long weekly program inspiring families across the nation through many interactive ways, including verse recitation, essay writing, and multiple discussions. Now, GitaWise hosts multiple classes and programs each week for children's, teens, ladies, and men. And many of our high school students also volunteer and assist in teaching the children's classes and manage our socials. In 7 years, GitaWise has been blessed to grow to 150 plus students, as well as impact over 250 families. And the main message of GitaWise is to support a positive energy in a world filled with trauma, negativity, and conflicts. The impact GitaWise has made is unquantifiable, and we hope that all of you join with us as we can continue to make a global impact. So now I'll be passing it on to Rasagna, who will be leading the first portion of our seminar.
Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Rasagna, and I'm a senior at South Forsyth High School. I've been a proud student of GitaWise for the past 6 years, and I've also been a GitaWise volunteer for a year and a half. One thing I truly love about our classes are the discussions that we have, and I enjoy contributing to them in class every week. Some of my hobbies include writing, reading, and dancing. And a fun fact about me is that I've experienced 3 concussions from playing 3 different sports. Our first topic will be about minding the mind, also known as controlling the mind. In association with this topic, I will reference various verses from Bhagavad-Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada that I've learned by coming to GitaWise classes over the years. Now, coming back to minding the mind. The mind is what stores all of our intelligence, and this mind determines how we control our senses and perform certain actions. The nature of the mind is quite unstable. It never stays constant on one object, thought, or feeling, and it is very much like a monkey jumping from one branch to another. For example, I see that for a lot of people around me and myself, we have trouble focusing in classes in school because we start thinking about other irrelevant things, such as, oh, I have to go to that party tonight, or oh, I completely forgot to complete that assignment, when we should be focusing on the subject that the teacher is teaching us. So I have a question for all of you. Have you ever experienced a situation like this before? If so, let us know what happened. Please type your answer in the chat box. So I see that people have experienced something like this before. Well, one thing to note is that this is a commonality present among all human beings living in this world. Even Arjuna had a difficult time controlling his mind. And he asked in chapter 6, verse 34, about the nature of the mind on behalf of all of us human beings in this material world. He says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayur iva sudushkaram, which then translates to, the mind is very restless, turbulent, strong, and obstinate, O Krishna. It appears to me that it is more difficult to control than the wind. This difficulty of controlling the mind is common among all beings. And Krishna provides various solutions to this issue later on that we will address as well. Moving on, the mind performs 3 main functions: thinking, feeling, and willing, which is the execution portion. Normally, the mind's main function is to produce thoughts of sense enjoyment. Over time, these thoughts will progress into feelings. And if the feelings last for longer, we will eventually have a difficult time controlling these feelings, and it would reach the willing stage and then execution, where we actually carry out our actions. Therefore, it is so important that we eliminate any bad thoughts as soon as we receive them to prevent situations from worsening. Now, the mind functions in a very interesting way. There are three components which coordinate with one another and influence the way we think. First, we have the senses, which includes the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, that help us acquire information about the world around us. Then we have our mind, which is the storehouse of thoughts, unfulfilled desires, and previous experiences. And lastly, we have intelligence, which is the ultimate decision-changing knowledge. The mind is the key executor that receives information from the senses and decides with the help of intelligence. This topic then relates to three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. One should engage in activities that develop good knowledge, because knowledge can also be in one of the three modes. For example, within the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajakarmani bharata gnanam avritya tu tamaha pramate sanjayati yuta, which then translates to, O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Some activities in the mode of goodness include eating healthy and thinking healthy, as opposed to activities in the mode of passion, including being lazy and spreading negative energy. For example, we can be in the mode of goodness by eating healthy food, because freshly cooked, healthy food provides us with energy and keeps our mind alert. It is especially important to eat healthy food the night or breakfast prior to an exam. But this type of food, it should be eaten at all times, because food that doesn't drive us towards ignorance or passion is food that we should choose for all of our daily meals. Similarly, we should choose music such as bhajans, exercises such as yoga, and other activities that are in the mode of goodness, so that we can maintain a healthy and clean mind. One important thing to note: if the mind is controlled, it is our best friend. If the mind is not controlled, it can become the greatest enemy. There are many consequences of having an uncontrolled mind, such as partaking in violence, drinking alcohol, having a lack of confidence, progressing bad habits, and becoming overly angry. For example, in our modern world, it's super important that we try to stay away from any distractions when we're working. This is very relevant to us, because our mind should not be driven away by distractions, such as social media, TV, or any other activities. One extreme but an important circumstance is abstinent from drug and alcohol abuse. These substances haze and distort our thought processes, which is why we should not allow these to control our mind. In fact, we should control our own minds. Similarly, many problems exist all around us associated with the inability to control the mind. For example, in the modern world, many sports players often become so enraged and furious during a sports game that they scream and put up fights with their opponents. Unfortunately, for some sports such as cricket, they actually do lose points for bad sportsmanship and demeanor. That's why it's important that we learn how to control our minds, which then controls our emotions, to prevent these bad incidents from occurring. Now, I'll be giving you an example of a pastime to further explain this concept. Back in the 12th century BC, during the Dwapara Yuga, Maharaja Parikshit, who is the grandson of the Pandava Arjuna, was crowned as the king, and he was the only Pandava left after the Kurukshetra war. One day, when Maharaja was traveling in the forest, he felt very thirsty, and he came across a sage named Samika, who was in the middle of deep meditation. Parikshit asked for water many times to the sage, but the sage would not respond because he was in deep meditation. In anger, Maharaja put a dead snake around the sage's neck, and this was a result of his inability to control the mind. The sage's son Shringi, after hearing what happened, cursed Maharaj to die from a snake bite in 7 days. And later on, Maharaja did die from a snake bite by King Takshak in 7 days. In this story, one important lesson to learn is that the inability to control our minds will lead to bad consequences. Obviously, in this situation, the punishment was quite extreme, but within our daily lives too, we will find small consequences that will hurt us. That's why it's important for us to learn how to control our minds and the significance of doing so. Now, I'll be providing you an analogy to explain how the mind is controlled. The chariot is our gross material body. The passenger in the chariot is our soul. The driver of our chariot is intelligence. The 5 horses are the senses, and the driving instruments are the mind. As you can see in the picture at the bottom, everything is controlled by the mind and intelligence, and they play a major role in our actions and our daily lives. Personally, ever since I've learned about the importance of controlling the mind, I've been trying to enforce these principles within my daily life. In the past, and even now, I've had difficulty with throwing away a lot of unnecessary objects or eliminating memories. Although this may seem quite trivial, this actually is an issue associated with relating to controlling the mind, because I'm unable to overcome the emotional attachments I feel towards these things. But it's obviously not good because there's so much stuff in my house that doesn't really need to be there. However, I'm learning to control my mind and the emotions I carry towards these things, so I'm improving in my methods. Another example I have is related to food, which I'm sure is something that we all love. As a major food lover myself, I'm obviously very attracted to it. I get hungry quite easily and I have many cravings. In the past, I've obviously had a difficult time controlling my mind and my biological reaction to seeing food. However, about 2 to 3 years ago, my family and I started fasting on Ekadashi, which happens once in 15 days. Ekadashi is a very auspicious and powerful day filled with good vibes. Fasting on this day has spiritual and even biological benefits. When we first started, I would get angry and cranky without being able to eat. But over time, I've learned to control my emotions and my mind, that I can go well off without eating for hours, and that is so new to me. I'm very happy with the fact that I'm able to learn how to control my mind through these experiences. Finally, it's important that we engage in actions that increase our intelligence as a way of increasing our ability to control the mind. There are various methods and tips that we all compiled to help everyone control the mind. First, we need to ensure that we keep good company. Healthy association is key to maintaining a balanced mind, free from negative thoughts. Mantra meditation is also super important. When we chant, we allow our minds to be focused on one entity, the Supreme Lord, and we are able to control our minds accordingly. This then corresponds to engaging in topics associated with God. Next, when we understand the meaning of life, which is to attain the Supreme Lord, we are able to prevent ourselves from any other distractions and stay focused on our goal. By going to holy places and purifying our senses through devotional service, we are once again focused on our path of attaining the Lord, which is to control the mind. Some other ways include setting realistic and practical goals within our daily lives. This way, we are able to prevent our mind from gaining any absurd or unrealistic thoughts. It's also very important to take stress breaks in our work, but how we spend time in our stress breaks is also super valuable. Performing Krishna conscious activities such as chanting or praying versus staying on social media is much more helpful for the stability of our minds. Even Krishna claims that mind control is crucial to success. In chapter 6, verse 36, he exclaims, Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi vasyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptamupayata, which then translates to, for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work, but he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. We would like to conclude this topic by emphasizing the importance of controlling the mind at all times. Hopefully, this lesson provides you with a good introduction as to the importance of controlling the mind and what all we can do to control the mind, even though it is a difficult task. Thank you to GitaWise for teaching me so much about various principles through all the verses and discussions that we've had. Now, I'll be passing over the mic to my friend Tushar to talk about the art of working.
Hello and Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Tushar Singh. I am a senior at Alliance Academy. I've been a GitaWise student for the past 6 years, and I enjoy performing at our annual Janmashtami program. And some of my hobbies include chess, basketball, and reading. So today, the seminar portion that I'll be presenting is the art of working. So before we dive into the art of working, I'd like to discuss some of our motives for work. First, we do work because we are fearful of the consequences. So this is typically when we're afraid of getting a bad test grade will reflect poorly on us and in the eyes of others, or we're afraid that our parents may yell at us. This is not the best, and we shouldn't be doing it in fear of consequences. Second, we do work because we have desire. While this may be better than having fear, it's not better, it's not the best. An example of this is when parents force their kids to do work in exchange for a reward or extra screen time. Third, we have working dutifully. Doing work dutifully means you're doing your work because it is your responsibility and you are obliged to do it, but you might not have a genuine passion for it. For example, take a mother who is cooking for her child. On one hand, she can cook for her child and leave the food out for the child to enjoy. On the other hand, she can cook the food, offer it to Krishna, and sit down with her child to make sure he or she enjoys it. Third, we have working out of love or passion. This is great because when we're doing something out of love and passion, we're doing it to either learn something more or just improve upon ourselves. We should always have a mindset that we're doing something that we love and not just for the sake of it. And even in an activity, we can all have different motives. For example, in a soccer match, we may be motivated to perform an activity to win an award or trophy or avoid scolding by our parents or coaches. On the other hand, we're motivated to perform it because we want to feel the satisfaction of doing good, and we just want to improve ourselves. So what exactly is the art of working? So I've compiled 3 main verses to really highlight what the art of working actually is. First, we have verse 2.47. Karmani eva dikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturvar mate sangostva karmani. Verse 2.47 says, you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duties. So Krishna says that when we have our duty, whether it may be to study as a student or just be a good, responsible parent, we should not be attached to it or the fruits of action, which is better known as the results. And we should never consider ourselves the cause of the results, and we should not be attached to doing it. Krishna is the supreme controller, and ultimately, our results and the decisions we face are of his doing. And most importantly, we should have trust and faith in him. Next, we have verse 2.48. Yogasta kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya ho samobhutva samatmam yoga uchyate. In this verse, Krishna is telling Arjuna, perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. So, as you may or may not know, the context of the Bhagavad-Gita is on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And the main problem Arjuna is facing is whether he is to go to war, because doing that would involve killing his relatives and family members who are on the opposite side. So, to console him and enlighten him, Krishna tells him that he should not be attached to the results, whether he is successful or failure. And he introduces this idea of yoga, which is when we have the proper mindset to do our duty without an attachment for the results. Next, we have verse 8.7. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mama nusmara yadyacha mai arpita manobuddhir mame vaishasya samshayaha. In this verse, Krishna is saying, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty, which in this case for him is fighting. And with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will no doubt attain me without a doubt. So as a solution for his problems, Krishna is telling Arjuna that he should fix his mind and his consciousness on Krishna. And by doing that, he will help him carry out his prescribed duty of fighting. So how should we be working? So together, these verses show how Krishna is instructing Arjuna to perform his duty. We should have faith in Krishna and be working toward Krishna in order to be out of the fear of failing or not being successful. And what is our duty? Personally, for me, my duty is to go to school and be a student, but also be a role model for my brother and my community. Depending on where we are at life, our duty may be different, but the main thing we should remember is that we should do our duty with a focus on Krishna and do it to the best of our abilities. And the Bhagavad-Gita offers many ways we can adjust our mindset to better attain Lord Krishna. So one example it cites is the 9 steps of bhakti. The 9 steps of bhakti are essentially ways in which we can practice offering devotion and becoming closer to Krishna. Some of the activities include singing kirtan, listening to Krishna, or even chanting. Personally, the way that I practice this is by sitting down for arati every night and reading from the Bhagavatam. And essentially, the art of working is a very powerful tool that can help us be successful in anything that we do. And an important distinction that I like to make is the difference between working hard or hardly working. Someone who is working hard is honest and trustworthy and is very goal-oriented. They know what they are trying to do and they don't have an attachment for the results. They're doing it because they want to improve themselves and not because they want to seek some kind of reward. On the other hand, someone who's hardly working takes the easy way out. They may cheat, lie, or be deceitful, and they're working in exchange for maybe pride or just some material reward. This is not what we should be doing. So next I have some verses that will provide us with a better idea of some of the benefits of the art of working. Verse 2.5 says, Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktam vaiksham api haloke atvarta kamamstu gurun ihaiva bunjaya bhogan rudira pradigdan. In this verse, Krishna is saying, one who prudently practices the science of work without attachment can get rid of both good and bad reactions in this life itself. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of working, skillfully and in proper consciousness. So this verse is telling us that we can be free from both good and bad reactions, whether we win the excitement from doing well or we get the discouragement from doing bad. We should still try to work to our best of the abilities. And here's one example that I like to give. So for me personally, I'm part of an organization called HOSA where we compete in different competitions. The first year I participated, my mindset was that, I would do really well and I didn't need to prepare because I was a very smart individual. Guess what? I didn't do so good. But when I started learning about the art of working and how I shouldn't be results-oriented, but should be success-oriented, then I came back prepared with a humble attitude and I did much better. So simply changing our mindset can have a very big impact on our results, although they should not be the main focus of our endeavors. Next, we have verse 14.9. Sattvam sukha sanjayati prajakaramani bharata nanam arvityatu tamaha pramade sanjayati yuta. In this verse, Krishna is saying, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to the fruits of actions, and ignorance to madness. Ideally, we should avoid the modes of passion and ignorance and strive to be in the mode of goodness. By mastering the art of working and working toward Krishna without being attached to the results, we can be free from any of these fruitive actions or madness, and instead become happy. So before we think about the benefits, we need to kind of think about our problems. In material nature, we're constantly seeing lustful distractions that take us away from our prescribed duty. And the best medicine to this problem is to work skillfully by employing the proper consciousness and orienting our mindset to best surrender and understand Krishna. So you might be wondering, what exactly does this mean? So our time on this planet is finite. So we must take advantage and work with humility and simplicity to get closer to Krishna. Our spiritual goal is to attain Krishna and be able to remember him even at the time of death. And by using the art of working, we are able to best make use of our limited time on earth to understand the absolute truth. And in this way, we are able to live a happy and simple life, as well as manage the 3 modes of material nature. And to master the art of working may be different for everyone, but there are certain people who have shown just how powerful it can be. One example that I like to think of is Prabhupada. So Prabhupada came to America in the 1960s with one main goal, to introduce America to the teachings of Krishna. Prabhupada was working out of pure love and pure devotion to Krishna and brought together many artists and leaders to spread the message of ISKCON. And even as he saw the lustful and sinful activities taking place, he knew what his goal was and didn't feel attached to any of these material desires or distractions, and he was able to have a monumental impact. He is a great example of someone who has mastered the art of working and has used it to pave a way of success for many people. And by combining selfless service, Prabhupada has helped lead the development of over 850 temples around the world. So the main takeaway is that the art of working is a valuable asset to anyone. Whether you're working toward your spiritual goals or your material goals, mastering the art of working can help you become successful in any way. And even in our busy schedules, there's always a way to maximize our success and not be drawn to the results. And one quote that I like to live by is that for every step you take toward Krishna, he takes 10 steps toward you. Whether you chant one round or cook prasadam for one meal, all your activities have a great impact and bring you closer to Krishna. Up next, we will be exploring Life is a Learning topic by Abba. And I would just like to thank GitaWise for my experience to not only learn about these topics, but also how to apply them to be successful both in and out of class.
Good afternoon and Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Abba Mulay. I'm currently a sophomore at Innovation Academy, and I've been a GitaWise student for over a year now. I enjoy listening to pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and a fun fact about me is that the school that I'm currently at is my 11th school in the past 10 years. And some of my hobbies include Bharatanamaha, singing bhajans, and doing calligraphy. Enough about me. Let's move on to our next topic. Life is a learning experience. I'm referring to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita as it is, whom without this PowerPoint wouldn't have been made. This is verse 2.47. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phaleheturbhur ma te sangosta karmani. This translates to, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of actions. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. This verse talks about something we all do in our lives, focusing on results. As students, we focus on grades, and as adults, we focus on a promotion for work and money. Focusing only on the results leads to one statement I'm sure we've all heard of before. I have to. I have to finish this project and test this code. It's Monday and I have to go to school today and attend so many classes. This mindset feels heavy and sad and ruins our day when it probably hasn't even started. Have you ever felt like this before? Maybe even said these statements aloud? I know I personally have. Well, allow me to change your perspective by flipping one word in the statement above. I get to do this. I get to finish this project and test this code. I get to go to school today and attend so many classes. One simple change of a word can help to reframe our mindsets and remind us that there's potential benefit in every situation, and there is someone above who gives us these opportunities. We should see every situation as a blessing. We can look at this picture. The pathway with the get to mindset is bright and sunny, while the pathway with the have to mindset is dark and very gloomy. I hope you feel more humble and charged to go through your day with this mindset. Next is going through life versus growing through life, because there is a difference. We all know that there are morals that we have to follow that will lead to a happy and purposeful life. But again and again, we forget to follow this path by just going through life, not looking forward to the days ahead of us. Focusing on these 4 things will contribute to a happier life. First, we can focus on personal life. We all have problems that we go through, and we get so worried sometimes that it clouds our mind. We are unable to look at the bright side due to this. For this, we can press and pause. We have to take a break sometimes and talk to our inner selves. reflecting over what has happened so we can do better next time. Let's also take a look at the why worry chart. So first, it asks us if we have a problem in our life. Well, a problem we are all going through right now is the pandemic. Then it asks us if we can do something about it. There is something we can do about it on our part. Wear a mask and social distance. But still, the whole pandemic is not in our hands. We should accept that, do our part, and not worry. Next, we have to focus on relationships. As human beings, we have relationships with people. We may be a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, or a sister, or a brother to someone. Unfortunately, we have conflicts with others. When fights happen, we tend to blame the other person. One thing we can do is empathize with the other person and put ourselves in their shoes. This method helps keep away from negativity and will avoid conflicts and fights. We have to be sensitive and listen to others. In my life, I'm grateful for my parents, my brother, and my good friends for listening to what I have to say patiently. I strive to be that person for as many people as I can be. Next, we can focus on our work life. Many of the problems we face in our work life are due to competition. Competition leads to negativity and jealousy. Rather than comparing ourselves to others, have a healthy competition with yourselves and work on how you can improve by setting goals. Next, we can take a look at the concept of ikigai. So this is a Japanese concept and is defined as 4 principles: the work that you like, you're good at, you can earn from, and how you can help others. Our daily work should fit in as either a passion, a mission, a profession, or a vocation. So personally, I taught kids how to cook and bake over the summer. I love to spend time with kids, and I love cooking as well. And I believe I've gotten pretty good at cooking over quarantine. By God's mercy, I got paid doing this as a profession. And lastly, for a vocation, I hope I can feed others prasadam one day. And lastly, we can focus on social contribution. It's time to ask yourself, are you an ice cream or a candle? Now, when I was asking this, you might have thought I was going crazy, but I can assure you, there is a philosophy behind both of these. The ice cream represents enjoying life before it melts. This prioritizes personal enjoyment above everything else. On the other hand, we have the candle, which gives light to others before it melts, selflessly illuminating the world for the benefit of others, like a guru. Now, we're probably not straight on either side of the spectrum. We may be in the middle, but we should strive to be a candle in our lives. Our next topic, happiness and distress. Now I'm referring to verse 2.14 from the Bhagavad-Gita. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitasna sukha dukkadaha agamapaino nityastam stitikshasva bharata. This translates to, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. We all want to be happy all the time, and we may wonder why we can't be. Krishna gives us a beautiful answer in the verse above. He states that we experience happiness and distress on a day-to-day basis. They come and go like seasons. He also says that we have to tolerate them without being disturbed. The first thing to do is to conquer our mind, like my good friend Rasagna said earlier. We should remember these 3 points. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and he is our supreme friend. After remembering that Krishna has the best interest for us, we can live a less disturbed life. Universe is a university. Now let me tell you about a pastime from the Srimad Bhagavatam of an Avaduta by the name of Dattatreya. For reference, an Avaduta is a person who has reached a stage in their spiritual development in which they are far beyond worldly concerns. So we must take the guidance of our gurus and surrender to them. This Avaduta, who is far more advanced, surrendered and learned from nature, calling them his gurus. Some examples of the gurus he stated are rivers and oceans. So the rivers that join the ocean may overflow with water in the rainy season and go lean or dry in summer. But the ocean, whether rainy season or summer, neither swells nor dries up. Likewise, we must neither get overjoyed when we get great material wealth, nor should we sulk if we get impoverished. The next example he gave was the moon. So the moon wanes and waxes, but it still doesn't affect it. Just like that, the body decays and grows, but the soul remains unaffected. Life will have its ups and downs, but we must stay unaffected by them. And lastly, he mentioned the sun. So the sun takes the water by its heat during evaporation. It doesn't keep this water for itself, though, as the water comes down in rainfall. Similarly, we can acquire a lot of material wealth in our life, but we must give it back when time comes, like charity. We must see how we can learn something from every situation. Many of us see failure as a bad thing, especially students like me. A new school year has started now, and we are all getting used to going to school again. Personally, I didn't do so well on a math quiz that I had during the first week of school. I saw this as a major setback at first, but I thought of what I had learned through Amritamatari's classes. After that, I carefully analyzed what I'd done wrong, like lack of organization and lack of study, and saw my upcoming math test as an opportunity rather than something to dread, like Tushar mentioned earlier. After all, the universe is a university, and there's so much for us to learn. Thank you to GitaWise for giving me this opportunity, and for all of you for listening to what I had to say. I hope this was helpful. Now on to Vaishnavi, who will talk about leadership. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. My name is Vaishnavi Balaji, and I'm also a senior at South Prasad High School. I've been a GitaWise student for over 4 years now, and I've been a GitaWise volunteer for approximately 6 months. My favorite part of the classes are enjoying learning about Krishna's pastimes and reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Some hobbies I have is dancing, biking, and drawing. A fun fact, similar to Abba's, is that I have moved 11 times, and this is the longest I've stayed in one place. Now let's get on to our topic, leadership, a disposition. All the verses that I used in this presentation comes from the Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Now let's start with leadership. This brings us to our first two questions. Who is a leader and what is leadership? When we think of leaders, we think of famous people like CEOs and celebrities, but leaders can be homemakers, young people, or the common man who's not in the top positions in their professional life. A leader is a role model who inspires others to do positive things. A leader leads by example, and a leader empowers others. First, I would like to talk about leadership as a whole. Leadership is not a designation. Rather, it's a disposition. Designation means position, and disposition means qualities or habits. For example, disposition refers to if one is responsible or has the attitude to do what is right. Let's take, for example, a famous sports player, and they're at the peak of their career, and then they suddenly got a leg injury. They might think that their career is over, or that the only thing that was interesting about them was that sport. They might believe that the identity they created for them is gone, but in actuality, they probably have multiple other qualities to make them a strong leader. For example, if he is able to speak about his experiences, then they can influence others and show them that there's more to them than just a career. This refers to the idea of appointed leader, as opposed to one who steps up and leads. Even if one is appointed as a leader and he or she is careless, then the leader will not be able to do much good. So it is important, whether appointed or not, that the leader employs qualities like the responsibility to be able to do best and to benefit of all. Some leaders are ingrained with characteristics of being a leader, while others have to learn and gain these characteristics throughout their life. Those who are not born with these qualities can easily develop them as those who are. This brings me to the point personal leadership versus public leadership. Personal leadership versus public leadership. Public leadership refers to how we lead others, and personal leadership is how we fulfill our purpose with self-awareness and self-motivation. If there's a public leader who has personal leadership and self-awareness, then they'll be able to lead truthfully and in the best way. But if a public leader does not have personal leadership, then there's a way for them to misuse their powers, which is not in the best interest for anyone. That is why personal leadership leads to public leadership. The qualities for personal leadership can develop by everyone, and they can apply qualities like self-awareness in all aspects of their life. If one is not able to take responsibility for oneself and their actions, then he or she cannot take responsibility for others, which means they won't be an effective leader. This creates the difference between a boss and a leader. A boss is one who orders others to do the work, but a leader assists others with the assigned work. For example, a boss might say, I did all the work. I was the one who contributed the most. While the leader might say, we did all the work. We contributed equally. This brings me to the identity of an iceberg. The top of the iceberg above the water surface is visible, but underneath the surface, there's more to the iceberg. Under the visible iceberg, it shows values and habits, which again shows our disposition. It is not easy to change our habits and beliefs. This is important to leadership because when we lead, we need to be able to stick to our core values and beliefs while also being able to inspire others through our own actions. Next, I would like to discuss some examples of leaders who inspired others through their work. Most of these leaders were not appointed, but they had the disposition and qualities of a leader, which helped them fulfill their responsibilities. First is a spiritual leader. This is Srila Prabhupada. He has reformed souls, helped others get closer to the Lord. Without him, we might not even have the Bhagavad-Gita as it is, and we won't be sitting right here listening to this seminar. Srila Prabhupada is one of the greatest leaders that ever walked on this planet. At a very old age, he worked relentlessly and helped thousands of people understand the real purpose of life. He translated several scriptures into English so that knowledge can inspire us. He traveled across the globe 14 times to reach out to as many people as he can. While doing all this, he role modeled servant leadership by himself serving Krishna and his devotees. Next, we have a political leader, Abdul Kalam. He was part of space research as well as being a former president of India and always being a great role model. During his time of being part of the space research, Abdul Kalam helped launch a spaceship, but the project failed before launch and he took the blame for the project failure instead of blaming his project leader. When the project was successful, he gave the credit to his entire team. This does not mean that we need to take the name of failure and let others take the name for success. It simply introduces the quality of humility and how he motivated the team through ups and downs. And lastly, we have a philanthropical leader. This is Mother Teresa. She cared for the people of India who were sick and needed help. She cared for those who were dying. These leaders are remembered for their leadership and how they were able to help the common man through their basic roles in society. All of them have followed the method of leadership known as servant leadership, which means serving others and then becoming a leader themselves. So now this brings up to our discussion question. So who is the leader in Bhagavad-Gita? Please comment down in the chat below. Yeah, as some of you guys said, it is correct. The Bhagavad-Gita is a conversation between two great leaders, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Arjuna. Krishna is a leader because he came into this world to establish righteousness and to protect the people. After Kamsa died, the citizens wanted Krishna to be the ruler of Mathura kingdom. But he didn't want the position of king and instead crowned Ugrasena as the new king. Arjuna is a leader because he's known as Dhananjaya, which means great archer and warrior. He's also known as Gudakesha, which means conqueror of ignorance. Arjuna is not an ordinary leader, but he's a great leader. The Bhagavad Gita conversation, where he's asking Krishna questions, represents us and he asks those questions on our behalf. Another great example is of the Pandavas. The Pandavas were in exile for 12 years and were also under incognito or undercover for 1 year. During this year, Arjuna was disguised as a dance teacher. They did not have to follow each and every single one of the regulations, but the Pandavas still did because of the duty and morals that they carried. Now I would like to reference a verse from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter 3, verse 21. The chapter is from Karma Yoga. Yad yad acharati shrestad tad tad eva taro janaha sayat pramanam kurite lokastad anuvartate. Translation. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standard he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. This verse states that a leader is one whom many look up to. The leader should first be able to follow what he or she is teaching. The leaders are great leaders because they're lifelong learners and lifelong servers. But all leaders were learners at first, and then they developed as servants. Krishna describes a great man as being an influence, but through our actions, even the common man can inspire others. I would like to continue with the discussion of the qualities of a great leader. Determination, truthfulness, responsibility, enthusiasm, and humility. Through my previous experiences in GitaWise, I learned important things about myself and leadership as a whole. By learning the verses every week and planning to memorize it as a whole, the qualities GitaWise has given me the opportunity to be responsible. Although I haven't mastered the qualities of being a perfect leader, every day I hope to improve as much as possible. Also, in chapter 13, verses 8 through 12, and chapter 12, verses 13 to 20, Krishna states important qualities of a good devotee, like pridelessness, nonviolence, simplicity, and self-control, which can also be implemented on our discussion about leadership. Now, I would like to reference a verse from chapter 3, verse 20, and the chapter's name is called Karma Yoga. Karmane vahi samsiddhim asita janakadaya loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. Translation. Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. Janaka, or the father of Sita and the father-in-law of Lord Ram, is a self-realized soul who taught the people in his kingdom to perform their duties. Krishna gave an example of a king who was a leader and who set an exemplary example for the citizens of his kingdom. Krishna says that if a king like Janaka can be an example for the people in his kingdom, then Arjuna should also do his prescribed duties to show to others to perform their work. I would also like to reference a verse from chapter 18, verse 43. The chapter is called The Perfection of Renunciation. Sharyam tejir vivid daksham yude chapi apalayanam danam ishvaram bhavascha chatram karma shobhavajam. Translation. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriya. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna the qualities of a leadership that a warrior, Arjuna, should have. Arjuna, although being in a place of great leadership himself, had lost his confidence, but Krishna continues to motivate him and tells Arjuna to protect righteousness. I want to end off with the quote that Abdul Kalam has said. Let me define a leader. He must have vision and passion and not be afraid of any problem. Instead, he should know how to defeat it. Thank you to GitaWise for teaching me important life lessons and skills such as leadership and allowing me to spread this knowledge to others as well. Thank you to everyone for enthusiastically listening and participating in the seminar. We really appreciate your time and hope you're inspired by our humble effort in bringing across our realizations and experiences. Please explore GitaWise by exploring our social media. The website, the YouTube, the Instagram, the Facebook, and the email is provided. And the WhatsApp number is 404-721-3675. We look forward to seeing all of you in our GitaWise classes. Those who are already part of GitaWise, we're happy to have you. And for those who are exploring, we hope to see you in the classes. Please reach out to GitaWise by phone or email if you or your child is interested in joining. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tushar, Rasagna, Abha, and Vaishnavi. Tushar, you can stop sharing your screen and all of you show yourself up on the screen once, please, before we close. Want to highlight you all so that spotlight you all. Okay, then we have Rasagna, then we have Abha, and then Vaishnavi. Okay. So these four are the wonderful students who made the seminar possible. Thank you again. We hope all the participants today, the audience in the seminar have had some takeaway points and you enjoyed the seminar. Please share GitaWise contact, and if you all have any questions or any interest in the programs that we do, please reach out to us through the various social media and the phone number that we presented. Thank you all once again for joining, and thank you all four of you for doing such a wonderful webinar. Hare Krishna, everyone. We have some comments coming up. Awesome explanation, and kudos to Rasagna, Tushar, Abha, and Vaishnavi. Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you for your compliments. I can unmute the participants if they have. You all can unmute yourself now, and if you have any questions or compliments for the kids, please let them come in now.
It's really great to hear from this generation of kids and all the wonderful examples and your real life experiences. And I mean, it's a different perspective to hear and see the meaning of some of the verses in Bhagavad-Gita. So awesome. And thank you and great job.
Thank you, Sushma Aunty.
Yeah, and also thank you so much for taking time off your hectic schedule. That's really nice. And we are learning a lot from you guys too. That's a really good thing.
Thank you, Gayatri. All right. Thank you all for joining, and we'll hope to see you all again soon. Bye, everyone. Hare Krishna.